Chapter 548. Still on the moon, at the citadel located within the barrier artificial sun, created by the giant Tenseigan. In one of the bedrooms inside the castle, a middle-aged man with a pale complexion and greyish eyes was quietly resting on the bed. By the bed of the pale, middle-aged man sat a beautiful young boy. The young boy was about the age of 10 or 11 years old, with fair skin, whitish blue hair and hollow eye sockets. But the strange thing is that despite not having his eyes, the young boy was able to clearly sense everything around him and looked at the middle-aged man lying on the bed with a trace of sadness hidden in his heart. Undoubtedly, the middle-aged man lying on the bed is about to come to the end of his life. And no matter how much the young boy wants to deny this fact, it still cannot be avoided. Even the strong smell of herbs in the room couldn't conceal the deterioration of the middle-aged man's body. Death is very near. Perhaps with a few more hours of struggle, he would begin his new journey in the afterlife. At this time, the leader of puppets responsible for the cleaning of the temple hurriedly entered the bedroom and respectfully addressed the young boy. "Master!" The young boy frowned at the act of the puppets disturbing him at such a critical time and rebuked him coldly. "Oji-sama's state is not good, and I wish to remain here until the very end to bid him farewell. Do not bother me until I personally come out of this room." The leader of the puppets was scared and knew that it must not do anything against the young boy's words, who is his master. But it also understood that it must report the situation of the temple, so it tried its best to not directly look at the young boy's face and reported solemnly, "Master, there was some unusualness with the energy vessel enshrined within the temple." As soon as he heard these words, the juvenile's eyebrows narrowed and a cold glint appeared on his face. The young boy knows that the energy vessel on giant Tenseigan enshrined in Hamura's shrine is the key to maintaining the artificial sun on the moon and giving a certain degree of autonomy to hundreds of puppet servants that take care of almost everything in this castle. Along with an uncountable number of other functions, the giant Tenseigan on the moon not only creates a barrier that protects this castle, but also helps the Otsutsuki clan on the moon to closely monitor the changes in the shinobi world on the earth. Therefore, the young boy understands very well that if something were to happen to the giant Tenseigan, the consequences would be disastrous. Although he understands this fact and knows that he must check the unusualness of the energy vessel as soon as possible in order to avoid any tragedy. However, the young boy, who is only about 10 or 11 years old, couldn't really bring himself to leave his father alone during his last moments. But the dying middle-aged man is different from the young boy. He has lived a fairly long life, and even approaching death didn't cloud his judgment abilities. Moreover, he also heard the report from the puppet a few moments ago and was worried about the unusualness of the energy vessel, so he said to the young boy in weak yet ordering tone, "Go to the temple and check the situation." Although the young boy cannot see his father's expression, he can still feel that the grey eyes of his father were appearing to be more and more lifeless with every passing moment, as such a hesitant expression appeared on his face. The middle-aged man, of course, noticed the hesitation on his son's face, but as the father of this child, he must at least set an example for his son, so he used the remaining bits of his life to regain some spirit, and while tightly patting the young boy's head, he said in a gentle tone, "Toneri, death is something that everyone must face, and I am no exception to this rule of the cycle of life. Although I feel extremely sad that my death would leave you as the sole survivor of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, I still hope that you can continue to live and continue to do what you must do and what you wish to do. Of course, as your father, I hope that you don't live in loneliness, forget about the clan's decree, and go to Earth to find real friends and comrades and live for your own sake. Whether you choose to go to the Earth or continue to stay on the moon to observe the Earth and the shinobi world on the Earth, as we of the Otsutsuki clan have done for the past millennium, will ultimately depend on your choice. Regardless of what you choose to do, you must not forget what I told you a few months back. This is not the first time that such an unusualness happened with the giant Tenseigan. We don't know why it happened even back then, and our search for the possible reasons has borne no fruit as of yet. Therefore, we know nothing about this unusualness with the energy vessel. The elders of the clan who witnessed it at that time concluded that it was related to the shinobi world on Earth, and specifically related to the one who stole the Gedo statue a few decades ago. Although there is no proof, perhaps they might indeed be correct, or they might be incorrect. I cannot say for certain, so you must stay vigilant. Do you understand, Toneri? The young boy named Toneri nodded solemnly. Yes. Otu-sama! The middle-aged man nodded with a gentle smile, then said, "Now go, and remember this, I will always be proud of you and will always love you." With that, the figure of the young boy named Toneri disappeared from the room, and just as the figure of Toneri disappeared, the middle-aged man also lost his breath. Although a young boy on the moon just lost his father and became the orphan, Kof, the last descendant of the Otsutsuki clan, the battle ongoing on Earth was not affected by it in any way, at least not yet. Boom, 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 accompanied by the sound of deafening explosions and the terrible shaking of Earth, the tentative struggle between Yama and Nagato continued. Under the actions of the two repulsive forces, the plain valley has been divided into two cliffs, and the artificial fissure that separates the two cliffs has only become bigger and bigger and deeper and deeper. But there's still no end in sight, and the cracks are starting to spread inch by inch on the two cliffs too, so the two cliffs are also showing signs of collapse. And it won't take long for the land in a radius of several miles to completely collapse. But whether it is Yama or Nagato, neither of the two has yet to show any signs of taking countermeasures against such a happening. Perhaps both Yama and Nagato are not afraid of the collapse, so they are completely indifferent to it. Of course, the fact that Yama and Nagato are not afraid of the collapse does not mean that the other people in the surroundings can also remain indifferent to it. They are, of course, very afraid, so they have already started to use their own means to flee from the battlefield. No way, even witnessing such a battle is not their cup of tea. In order to remain alive, they must do whatever they can to ensure their survival. On Nagato's side, Konan spread a pair of paper wings behind her back. Immediately after that, she flew to the sky like an angel and observed the situation while hovering above the battlefield. It's just that despite being synonymous with an angelic figure and beauty, Konan's face was filled with worry as she looked at Nagato, who was yet to take a single step forward or backwards from the cliff he stood upon. Madara temporarily hid inside the Kamui dimension and only observed the situation, while Tobi, who has the Mayfly ability similar to other Zetsu beings, silently sneaked underground, waiting for the perfect opportunity to come. On Yama's side, under the joint command of Sandaime Hokage and Sandaime Tsuchikage, the slightly injured shinobi, who have already been healed because of the treatment done by Tsunade Jaime using her slugs, carried the severely injured and unconscious shinobis and hastily withdrew from the precarious battlefield. Just a few moments later, the only people left standing on the broken valley were Nagato, Gedomazo, as well as Yagura and Killer Bee, both of whom were tied with purple and golden chakra chains, being drained of their chakra and stripped of their biju, and Yama, along with Uchiha Shisui behind him. Homusubi was using his Yatagarasu no Jutsu to hover over the battlefield just like Konan. Of course, Shisui was staying on the battlefield with the permission of Sandaime Hokage. Hiruzen is aware of Shisui's super-fast body flicker jutsu, so he fully understands that Shisui is undoubtedly the fastest shinobi of Konoha, and since Shisui also has the ability to use Susanoo for the purpose of defense, so he agreed to Shisui's request to stay, and hoped that Shisui could help in rescuing Yagura. And Killer Bee. It didn't take long after the extras withdrew. A large-scale collapse, reaching up to several miles, began. And this time, the collapse also seems to affect Yama and Nagato. Fully aware that the battlefield is about to collapse, Yama telepathically gave instructions to Homusubi and Uchiha Shisui behind him. "I will hold him. In the meantime, the two of you will find the chance to save the Mizukage Yagura and Killer Bee." Boom, 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 explosion. Just as Yama finished giving instructions to Homusubi and Shisui, several large-scale explosions occurred on the battlefield, and the battlefield that could no longer stand the devastation of the two massive, repulsive forces collapsed in the noisy roar. The damage was massive, and it spanned several miles, raising terrible dust storms, forest fires, landslides, and heavy rain of lightning. But Yama, who was already prepared for such a thing to happen for quite some time, was not affected by the collapse of the battlefield. He instantly weaved the hand signs to activate the Tenseigan Shaka mode and flew into the air while wrapped in the soft chakra cloak of cyan color. Similarly, Homusubi and Uchiha Shisui, who have already received orders from Yama, were prepared beforehand and used their individual means to escape the impact of the collapse of the battlefield. Homusubi scattered his body into thousands of crows and avoided getting injured, while Uchiha Shisui used his extraordinarily fast body flicker jutsu in conjunction with his newly acquired abilities granted to him by the Nekomata Sennin mode to flexibly avoid being swept away by the battlefield. Collapse. Of course, because the collapse of the battlefield is quite serious, and because they were entrusted with the task of rescuing Yagura and Killer Bee by Yama, so their exact position is quite difficult to determine at this time. But Yama wasn't really that worried about the two of them, as he can see their situation all the time. Shisui has already started to fight against Tobi, while Homusubi is still hidden and finding an opportunity to bypass Konan and Madara in order to rescue the two captured Jinchuriki. That aside, after Yama activated the Tenseigan chakra mode and flew into the air, he noticed that Nagato was also hovering in the air. The hovering Nagato also looked at the opposite Yama and said, "You didn't disappoint me. It seems you really are my arch enemy." Yama raised his eyebrow as he looked at Nagato's expression while he said the previous words. And Yama was surprised to find that not only did the result of the previous temptation not scare off Nagato, but it made Nagato more excited, as if a fighting spirit was ignited within him. "Humph," Yama snorted softly, and quickly compressed several truth-seeking orbs. Because of the chakra support of the giant Tenseigan on the moon, Yama was quite unscrupulous this time, so one after another, a total of 9 truth-seeking orbs appeared around him. Looking at those 9 black orbs that were only about the size of a fist, Nagato felt instinctive palpitations. In their previous battle at Amegakure, Nagato had not only witnessed, but also personally experienced the danger that these fist-sized black orbs represent. 4 of his Rikudo pain were destroyed by these black balls, and no matter how he tried, he was unable to repair them. In fact, he himself would have turned into dust if Madara hadn't intervened in time and used his spatial jutsu to cut off the area on his legs damaged by that golden sword. So even though he survived, Nagato still has a deep shadow of these black orbs. Although he doesn't know what kind of jutsu these black balls are, he can at least guess that these black orbs absolutely surpass the level of Kekkei Genkai, and reaches the domain of either Kekkei Tota or perhaps even higher. While Nagato was vigilantly looking at the 9 black orbs floating around Yama, Yama's gaze shifted to the Gedomazo on the ground. At this moment, Gedomazo is alone on the ground, and only its purple chains are trapping both Yagura and Killer Bee. The golden chains that tied the two Jinchuriki previously have disappeared, and the reason for their disappearance is not hard for Yama to guess. This means that this is a perfect opportunity. From the very beginning, Yama's first priority is cleared, and that is to rescue the two Jinchuriki. Because Yama knows that as long as the descendants of Hamura on the moon are alive, sooner or later they will be able to notice the unusualness of the energy vessel and immediately cut off the connection between the giant Tenseigan on the moon and his Tenseigan on the earth. With such a possibility always remaining, Yama is not sure for how long can he access the chakra of the giant Tenseigan. Therefore, his first priority is to rescue the two Jinchuriki. Other things can be talked about later, but the rescue of the two captured Jinchuriki from the hands of Gedomazo must be given priority over everything else. Only after their side is successful in saving the two Jinchuriki will the initiative return to their hands. At that time, whether he wants to continue fighting or he wants to retreat will be up to him. If the reaction of the members of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon is fast enough, Yama will choose to retreat. But if their reaction is slow, then Yama can continue to fight and even try to kill Nagato. But of course, that all depends on the rescue of the two Jinchuriki of complete. So, without wasting even a single instant of his invincible time, Yama used yin-yang release to merge 5 truth-seeking orbs in his right hand, and immediately after injecting Tenseigan chakra into them, he exploded it towards Nagato. Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. At the same time, he used yin-yang release on 2 of the remaining 4 truth-seeking orbs to break those 2 black orbs into hundreds of smaller fragments, then injected Tenseigan chakra into them, causing them to expand and glow emerald green. And without wasting even an instant, he fired those hundreds of emerald glowing orbs towards the Gedo statue on the ground. Emerald Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. These 2 actions were performed at rapid successions, so in the difference of just an instant, 2 amazingly powered attacks were thrown towards the Akatsuki organization. The Silver Storm, with tearing characteristics that burst out from Yama's palm, swept Nagato, while the emerald rain of exploding orbs that was telekinetically controlled by Yama overwhelmed the Gedo statue.